Joining me live is David Davis, Victoria's opposition energy spokesperson, and he's joining us now live. I've been looking into this, David, overnight, and from what I'm seeing, Federal Environment Minister Tanya Plibersek had no choice but to put a stop to the Port of Hastings plan. This wetland that they were planning to build a port on, 65% of Victoria's threatened bird species relies on it. The development has unknown volumes of dredging for deepening of the channel, 29 hectares of the wetland gone for a wharf structure, and the clearing of 25 hectares of vegetation. Very popular boating and fishing spot too. So you can understand why she made that call.
Look, Tanya Plibersek's no friend of Victoria, but the real problem here is the state government's lack of diligence and lack of work. This is a shambles, make no mistake. Offshore wind is important into the future. We support offshore wind as part of the energy mix going forward. The state government had set some very clear targets for offshore wind, and they had cross-party support. Now, what has happened here is the state government hasn't done their homework. They haven't done the due diligence and the work to make sure that the proposals they're putting forward are actually able to be successful. And you wouldn't have had to be a rocket scientist, let's be clear, to recognise that building this new expansion in the spot that was proposed was likely to run into some federal trouble, was likely to run into some issues with the Ramsar wetlands, and was likely to run into issues with the Environment Protection Biodiversity Act. So the state government should have done the work properly. They should have got themselves into a position where they'd actually ticked off those things, or they should have had a plan B. It appears they don't have any plan B, any alternate place where they can build this. And, they are now going to have to go back to the drawing board and work out where in Victoria we're going to make these large offshore wind appliances. Now, this is anything that's going to add more to the mix in the grid is a plus. And in this case, these offshore wind turbines, very big industrial structures, the scale of these is significant. But that's all the more reason to get the detail right, to actually do the homework. Victorian
Environment Minister Steve Dimolopoulos says the state government is... Yes, that's it. The state government is undeterred and will take some time to consider the federal government's decision, but would not go into whether he agreed with Tanya Plibersek's findings, instead saying his focus is on delivering energy targets. How does that response sit with you from the state's Environment Minister?
Well, look, they looked like they'd been hit with a fish. They didn't have any response that was detailed. It's clear that they had no plan B. So, all of this, is about basic competence. And this is an incompetent government. They can't manage major projects. Every major project in the state is over budget massively, tens of billions of dollars across the last period in cost blowouts and time delays on many of these projects. And this is the sort of reason why. If you don't do the background work, if you don't do your homework, as it were, before you start the project or attempt to start the project, you're going to run into difficulty. And that's what's happened here. A good project, a project that had real merit, has run into trouble because the state government couldn't do its work properly.
David Davis, really appreciate you coming on the program. Thank you.
Pleasure.